Hello, Sean HGV Training Services. This video is all about safety walk-around checks. Things that you should do before you start your driving job is a walk-around to ensure that the vehicle is in good working order. Also to ensure that things like the vehicle's not overloaded as well. So this video is all about the main elements that we're going to be checking before we take it out on the public highway. Drivers may not necessarily be aware, but this is a legal requirement. Okay, you are legally required to carry out pre-use walk-round checks. It is part of your duties. Your operator, your transport manager, your governor, they also have legal obligations to ensure that these vehicles are in good condition before you take it on the public highway. So they will, as part of your contract or part of your duties, require you to carry out a walk-round check. Normally, this is done about 15 minutes before you start your driving activity. That's normally how long it takes. Yes, this video is just going to go through some of the items we're going to be checking. Okay, so you're just about to do your walk-round checks. You're going to approach your vehicle for the first time. It might be an idea first off, as you're approaching that vehicle, just have a look at the front of it, just to make sure that it's sitting pretty and that it's not leaning to one side. And as we're walking towards the vehicle as well, let's just have a look underneath and make sure there's no fluid or oil leaks or any diesel or anything like that patches on the floor. Or if you're approaching for the first time your vehicle from the rear, as you're approaching it, just have a look at it, make sure it's sitting level, make sure it's sitting pretty, and also just come down on the floor and we're just going to have a look, make sure that there's no oil, no fluids leaking from the vehicle. For the first time, we're going to open the door. Now the steps going in, we've got to make sure they're clean of crap, there's good grip on there as well, because most accidents associated with vehicles is people falling from vehicles. Okay, now we're going to mount the vehicle. Best practice as you're mounting the vehicle, 3 points of contact at all times. Lean forward, get yourself in the vehicle. Close the door, make sure it's closed properly. When they start their work in the morning or pre-shift, when do they actually put their tacho in? And a lot of them say just before they're about to drive, which is incorrect. What you should be doing when you get in the vehicle for the first time, before you carry out your walk-round checks, is put your tachograph card in, because you're doing other duties. And remember, this records all this kind of stuff, so if you were to get stopped by enforcement, DVSA, etc., they can check on your card and see that you've got 15 minutes set aside for other duties, which is your walk-round check. So in order to put your tacho in, you're going to keep the finger on number 1, you check the slot, put it in with the chip upwards, chip facing up, and all I want you to do then is just follow the prompts. So it's very important that you put your tacho in, okay, before you start your walk-round checks, and select other duties. Okay, so carrying out the pre-use vehicle checks, drivers are required to record, to document, to sign a date to confirm that they've checked the defects and they picked up the defects as well. And if necessary, if there is a defect, that they've taken it to the appropriate person. There should be a reporting procedure in place. We can take the vehicle to get it fixed, or even notify the people that needs to get fixed. But we live in a society now which is all about blame. Okay, there's never an accident anymore, it's always an incident. So the requirement that you fill out this is a proper legal requirement which must be signed by you, and what you're doing is signing to confirm that you've either got 0 defects or you have defects. And it doesn't matter if you've got 0 defects either, you must keep a manual record. Okay, so we've put our tacho in, and while we're seated in the cockpit position, it might be an idea to check all for our gauges and warning lights and noises and so on. So before we turn the engine on, we're going to turn the ignition on, give it one turn. We're going to check all the dials, and the idea here is that while we're waiting for the lights to go out, we can check that the air pressure is sufficient, that we're not going to start a vehicle that's overheated, so the temperature is good, and also that we've got sufficient fuel for our journey. Once all the lights have gone out, if there are problems, then lights will stay on and we need to address those. However, as long as there's no coolant or oil warning levels, we can turn it one more and we can start the engine. And that's how we check our gauges Items we can check as well while we're seated in the vehicle. First off, we can adjust the seat if necessary. Somebody else might be driving this, might get the appropriate size. Seat belt. Well, I've got the seat belt here. We can make sure that that's working, free from defects. Will fit into the slot here as well. And while we're sitting here, let's check the mirrors. So mirrors, we're checking to make sure that they are in the correct position, that they're clean, and there's no defects. So we've got the mirrors down here on the offside. We've got the front mirror just at the front here. For vehicles manufactured after May 2006 must be fitted mandatory. And then we have the near side mirrors just here. And on top of that we have the curbside mirror just there as well. So check mirrors, make sure they're clean, clear, in the correct position and free from defects.
Part of my vehicle checks, one of the checks I would make on the windscreen wipers is to make sure that they're present, make sure they're the correct size, make sure they seat well on the windscreen, make sure they fit comfortably. To pull the windscreen back like this, have a check, make sure the blade's in good condition, it's not peeled and it's not perished. The only other check I can make is to get inside and operate the windscreen wipers and make sure they clean the screen correctly. My vehicle checks, one of the checks I'm making on the vehicle is to make sure that the bodywork is in good condition. I'm looking for any damage from the previous driver. I'm looking for anything sharp sticking out that could affect any other road user. I'm looking at everything attached to the vehicle, like this, is attached to the vehicle. And it's not going to fall off during the journey and will cause a problem to any other road user. Middle and bottom as I walk around the vehicle for the items I said, making sure everything is attached to the vehicle. The underrun bar, making sure my curtain sight's in a good condition, there's no damage or no tears in it that could probably get worse during the journey. Continuing the walk round checks on the bodywork, I'm looking at the back doors to make sure that they're all seated well, the hinges aren't rusty or broken. I'm going to make sure that the doors operate. Which they do. Again, instead of top, middle and bottom here, you have to make sure it's top and bottom. Make sure they're secure at the top and at the bottom of the lock.
Items that you might want to check is your windscreen and windows. Quite simple. You can make sure they're clean, clear, free from defects, no cracks, splits, anything like that. And we're also going to make sure there's no stickers on there, nothing that could obscure your view. Item, very important item as well, tyres and wheels. So tyres, legal requirement for this HGV says it must have tread at least 1 millimetre thick across 3/4 the full circumference around the tyre. We can also check for bulges, tears, we could check it was correctly inflated. You could visually check and see if that was only half inflated. If it were, one of the items you could check if it's got twin tyres at the back, make sure the twin tyres are not touching at the bottom. A couple of other items on here as well. Sometimes you're brushing the side of the tyre against curbs, etc. You'll find that the rubber wears down and there's going to be some cord exposed on there. So that's the tyres. Just looking at the wheels now. Now some of these vehicles do have pointers that are fitted in here. We don't. So what we're going to check first is check for excessive corrosion or rust. We're going to check, and these are visual checks, so we're going to look at the thread depths on the wheels here, and we're going to make sure they're all about the same length.
Right, a very important check you can make, the driver always wants to make before he starts driving, is the power steering. Now, the easiest, the simplest way to check your power steering would be to pull down on the left hand side and then start your engine, checking first that you're in neutral of course, and it releases. That's telling you that your power steering pump has kicked in, and of course if the power steering is failing while you're driving, a very important driver's check is the lights. And on this particular vehicle what we've got is this little switch over here. If we press that and then release, what we get up on the dashboard, it says light test. Okay, then we turn the ignition off, and if we then walk round the vehicle, what you would see is all the lights going on and off. And then of course we have the driver's friend, which is the audible warning device, commonly known as the horn or the hooter or anything you want to call it. And that should be used at any time that you want to let another road user know that you're coming. Another check that the driver has to make on a daily basis is that his lights are working okay. Now on this vehicle, what we've got is a light test facility button up here. So what we do is we turn the ignition on, and then we press the light test button. It then tells us that it's about to do a light test, and we turn the ignition back off again. Now we'll climb out and have a walk around the vehicle. And here we are outside the vehicle, checking the lights. And what you can see at the moment is your indicators are on at the bottom, and you've got your running lights, your headlights, there's your front fogs. Up the top here, any second now you'll see the marker lights come on, they're on there. So if you walk around the side of the vehicle now, if you'd just like to come with me, and left that open. Okay, we've got the indicators on the front, we've got the marker lights running down the side here. Okay, and then when we get to the back of the vehicle, if we stand back far enough, you can see up the top we've got the marker lights on again, and then on our rear light clusters here, we've got indicators or hazard lights, we've got the running lights, we've got the stop lights, we've got the fog lights, all the lights are coming on. And then if we go down this side, any second now the marker lights are going to come on. There we are, they're all on. And then all we've got to do now is just wait for this indicator here. We're still waiting for that marker light. That indicator's, that marker light's on. And then that one there will come on. That's that one. He's on.
Okay,
That's
another
it.
item
That's
on
it.
your checklist could possibly be the markers, okay, reflectors. So we looked at them a minute ago to make sure that they emitted light, but we also want to make sure that they're secure, they're not cracked in any way, and they're doing what they should. Okay, one of the items also to check is to make sure you've got sufficient coolant and oil in your vehicle as well. Now, most new vehicles you can check via the dashboard, it'll tell you how much you got in there, or you can do the orthodox approach, which is get outside the vehicle and check via the dipstick and also the sufficient coolant levels. The point of the matter is, if the items are on the checklist for the day, pre-shift, then you must check them. So oil and coolant, we'll check on the instrument
Okay,
panel.
some checks that we always carry out underneath the bonnet. The first one would be the oil level. All right, on this vehicle we've got a dipstick, and what we do is we make sure that the engine oil is between the minimum and maximum levels on the dipstick. If you need to top up, it will go in there, and you would need to check in your driver's handbook to find out what the correct grade of oil is, because there are lots of different ones out there. Over here we've got the engine coolant. One of our drivers, or one of our instructors I should say, has marked it for us, minimum and maximum, but there's your minimum level. Okay, and you would, if you needed to top that up, you would top it up when the engine is cool. If the engine's hot and you take that off, it will boil over. On this side here, this is for hydraulic oil, and that would be for your clutch.
Okay, another check we're going to do is suspension. Visual checks, we're going to make sure that the suspension has no obvious deterioration, no warping in any way. Just going to go down here now, and for this vehicle it's got spring leaf suspension. You can work it out there. So we're checking for any cracks, any distortion, any deterioration, any visual defects, and we just come and have a look at the other side. If we are laden, if we have got a load on there, we also want to make sure the suspension springs are smiling as opposed to frowning. That would give us a good indication that we weren't overloaded. So checking the springs, checking visual integrity, making sure that the suspension is in good working order, it's doing what it should be. Okay, looking at the load compartment area now, we want to make sure that it's clean of debris, nothing in the way. It's in good condition, it's going to hold the load. You can see we've got a load in the back here. We've got 5 IBCs, 1 tonne each, full of water. So we need to make sure our load is secure, evenly distributed, not exceeding axle weights, that kind of thing. So just checking the cargo floor area again. Make sure it's clean, clear, free of any debris, free of any rubbish. Why we're seat and cab, it's a legal requirement. If your vehicle or anything that's you're carrying is over the height of your vehicle, the height must be legally displayed in the cab, must be readily accessible, easy to identify for the driver, so it's in the cab. So the minimum height, if it's over 3 meters, legally must be displayed in the cab. If you just pan round to the windscreen over here, top left, there's our height indicator there. Okay, must be displayed. So, coming to the end of our walk round safety checks now. Final thing we can do before we leave the yard, make sure the vehicle will stop, make sure the brakes are working. So we're going to engage gear, release the handbrake, drive the vehicle forward, apply the brakes, make sure the vehicle will stop, and that's how we check for brakes.